Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
As you can hear, we have one of the macadamias, one of our pecans, whatever your nut or legume of choice is. We have Scott this evening, and it was an absolutely delightful day for Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, in which, because the Omer is a period of semi-mourning. Now, that's a long discussion that we can have at another time. But the 33rd day, those restrictions of not listening to live music, of getting a haircut, of shaving, things like that are lifted. And people can get married. And for some, after Lag BaOmer, that period of semi-mourning is over. And for some, that period still continues through Shavuot. And I don't know if you've been following in the news, but there was a tragedy at Mount Meron where people, traditional Jews and the ultra-Orthodox Jews, go to celebrate Lag BaOmer at the kever, the grave of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And so a number of people were killed during a stampede of people trying to get down off the mountain. Nothing occurred to make the people stampede. It was just that there was a choke point. Some of the stairs or the passageway where they were going was literally unsafe, and either somebody fell or something, and it just kind of, from what I read, seized up, and you had people that couldn't move, with people continuing to push on them, and a number of people suffocated or were crushed or were hurt. And so it's one of the great disasters in Israel's history, and not terror or war related. It was simply bad luck, bad timing, and they knew that there were problems with that particular passageway, which makes it even sadder that they chose not to have them repaired or to listen to people who said, maybe you shouldn't have this many people. There were tens of thousands of people who were gathered there for the celebration. And so a normally joyous day, Lag BaOmer, takes on tragedy this year. But it was still a glorious day here in Huntington. The sky was blue, the sun was out, and some might say it was windy. I will say it was breezy, because it was nice walking to and from the office today, and then to, and more than likely from synagogue tonight. It will still be nice. So we welcome that beautiful, beautiful weather on Lag BaOmer. It is indeed Shabbos, or right on the cusp of Shabbos. And so let's let go of the week. Let's take a couple of deep breaths, three deep breaths. I always say a couple, but we do three. So let's take a deep breath in and out, letting go of all the little things that have accumulated during the week. Let's take another deep breath in and out, letting go of some of the not so little things that might be weighing down on us, putting them off, letting them go for just Shabbat, if not the entire weekend, at least for Shabbat. And one more deep breath in and out, welcoming the beauty and peace that is Shabbat. All right, we have Scott to bench licht this evening, and he is going to light the candles as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat, the welcoming of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. All right, let's continue. You know what? I'm going to mix things up today on Lag BaOmer. Let's do a responsive reading on page 9. Page 9 of our Siddur. These are the days when we seek things for ourselves and measure. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain.
On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted.
On Shabbat, we stand and wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others.
On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal.
So we embrace Shabbat, a day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. Let's jump ahead to page 20 and Lecha Dodi. And last week we mixed things up a little bit and did verses 1, 2, and 3, and 8 and 9. And I see no reason why we shouldn't do that again this week. So 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9 for Lecha Dodi out of the mystical area, the mystical city of Tzfat. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad Hishmianu el hamiuchad Adonai echad ushemo echad L'shem ultiferet ve'litila Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki hi mekor habracha Merosh mikedem nisucha Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha Kumitzei mitoch hafecha Rav lakshevet bi'emecha bacha Vehu yachamol alai chemla Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin usmol tifrotzi V'et Adonai taritzi Al yahadish ben partzi V'nismecha v'nagila Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yelalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam b'simcha uv'sola Toch emunei am segula Boi chala Lecha dodi lichrat kala yelalai 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 Penei Shabbat nekabila Lecha dodi lichrat kala yelalai 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 Penei Shabbat nekabila. All right. Let's turn to page 22. Yep. One of the interesting things about this Siddur is that they like to cut out verses from the Psalms. And the Psalms for Kabbalat Shabbat aren't that long to begin with, but they cut them short. So, but that's okay. That's okay. We are on page 22, and we'll read from Psalm 92, also known as the Psalm for Shabbat. We'll read the outdented paragraph in English, and then we'll sing Tzadik Katamar, the indented Hebrew paragraph. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai. How very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Tzadik Katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon Yiskeh shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu O Jinuvun Beseva Bishenim Vera'ananim Yiyu Lehagid Ki Ashar Adonai Tzuri velo avlatabo. All right, we're on page 24. Shalom Alechem, the traditional greeting among Jews. All right, so if someone wishes you a Shalom Alechem, or Aleichem, if they're pronouncing it according to the Sephardic pronunciation, you say to them Alechem or Aleichem Shalom. You just reverse it, right? So it's literally peace unto you, peace unto you. And actually it's in the plural. So it's nice, right? Peace unto you could mean you, your family, you and your extra soul on Shabbat. Yeah, so it's a...
Shalom, y'all.
Shalom, y'all. Yeah. If the angels were from, West Virginia or Kentucky or something like that, they come and say shalom, y'all. Worst things they could possibly say, but the worst is not shalom, y'all. Page 24 at the top. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Baruch hu ni l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzeitchem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. All right, we have welcomed the Shabbat. We've completed Kabbalat Shabbat. And I feel better already. All right, we're going to continue with Arvit LeShabbat, the evening service for Shabbat, page 145, Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, Elma divrach yirutei v'yamlik malchutei, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimiru amen. Yehei Rabbah mevorach le'olam lo me'amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha b'richu le'la min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata dahamiran be'alma v'yimiru amen. The beginning of the evening service, page 146, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Page 147, let's read responsively in the English. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom.
Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures.
Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Page 148, Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shof beinu uvkumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uve'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayenu v'yorech yameinu, V'yorech yameinu, uvahem nehege yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla. V'ahavatech al tasir mimenu li'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Middle of 151, let's read responsively. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
Top of 152, Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha Bailim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nedar Bakodesh, Nohorati Lo, Ohosefele. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokeem lifnei Moshe, ze li anu v'amru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, v'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miel chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Top of 153, the first two lines of Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu Lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu Lechayim. Let's read together in the English. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 154, Vishamru. It's not Shabbat without Vishamru. Verses from the book of Exodus, talking about the importance of Shabbat. 154 at the top. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, לדורותם בריתו עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתו עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתו עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתו עולם. All right, we are at the centerpiece of the Arvit service, the Amidah. Again, the only prayer that is mandated that we say 3 times a day. Even takes more than the Shema. But we are going to begin on 155, and we'll chant 155 and 156 and 157 together. And then we'll continue silently through the end on 167. And you can chant along with us. You can follow along in the Hebrew or the English, or you can take this time and have your own prayer or meditative experience during the Amidah. We'll begin on 155. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehiratecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehiratecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Vekoneh HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Goel Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Yezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atarav Lahoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Metim Verachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Oholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afah michamocha ba'al gevurot umidom melach melech meimit umechahayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata l'chayot meitim baruch ata Adonai mechayeh hameitim. If you're still completing your Amidah, please continue at your own pace. We're going to continue on page 160, reading together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mechadesh ha-Shabbat. A little bit of hoda'ah, some gratitude this week. It's been a good week. Today I got a Facebook message and an email from somebody inviting me to take part in a symposium on Sunday because it's the 20th anniversary of a book that was published called Queer Jews. And I had written an essay for it when I was in rabbinical school. And it's a symposium for that, but also the person who was the editor and helped me make that essay even better passed away in November. So it's also a memorial for him. So Sunday, from people across the country are going to be in on this symposium. So from 1:10 to 2 our time, I will be on this symposium talking about an essay I wrote 20 years ago. 20 years ago. It's a good thing I still have copies of the book. It's a good thing. All right, but we all have good things. We all have things to be grateful for this week. So some could be big, some could be small. Doesn't matter. A little bit of gratitude goes a long way. Top of 163, let's read responsibly. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise.
For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being.
All right, and we will close out. Top of page 164, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha Tasim Leolam Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'necha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. At the bottom of the page, the last two lines. Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. All right, we're going to jump ahead to 253 for the Mishaberach. And I think for the fall semester of adult ed, I'm going to do a session on what exactly the Mishaberach is and who it's for. And so, I've always been interested in the Mishaberach. So, but we're in the middle of page 253, and if you know somebody who needs a little extra healing, a little extra blessing this Shabbat and into next week, keep them in your thoughts and close to your heart, and reach out to them after Shabbat. Let them know you're thinking about them, and we'll also keep all the people who are affected by what happened in Israel also in our thoughts. Misheberach Avoteinu Mekor habracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach Imotenu Mekor habracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. All right. Prayers for our community, for our congregation, our country, and Medinat Yisrael, pages 258 and 259, and we'll read these together. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us, love of Torah, devotion in prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. Avinu Shabashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Smichat Geulatenu, Hagein Aleha Bi'evrat Chastecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Oracha Va'amitecha L'Rasheha Sareha V'Yoetzeha, V'takneim Be'etza Tova Milfanecha, V'natata Shalom Ba'aretz, V'simchat Olam Liyoshveha, V'nomar Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
All right. Parashat Emor. We have a single parasha this week. And got to tell you, not a lot happening. Not a lot happening. But some important stuff, even though it's not action. Right? We get rules of holiness for the priests. Right? And being a priest meant more than just offering the sacrifices and declaring somebody clean or unclean. There was a code that they had to live by. For example, in this week's reading, we learned that a priest can't come into contact with a dead body. That would be problematic because it would make him ritually impure. However, for an immediate relative, he would be able to come into contact with that body, but would still become ritually impure. He's not allowed to shave his head or round the corners of his beard, right? So he has to have the peyot. He has to have the side curls. He can't deliberately cut his skin to leave marks, right? Now, this falls in that realm of tattooing and things, and that's a whole huge discussion that we'll have another time. I know we covered it during Bubba Mices, but what they're also talking about is in the ancient Middle Eastern cultures, in some ancient Middle Eastern cultures, when someone died, the close relatives would carve images, for lack of a better word, or their name somewhere on their body so that they wouldn't forget the person. And a Kohen is forbidden from doing that. He can't marry a divorced woman if he were to get married. And he can have no physical impediment. His body has to be entire. He can't be missing something. And those parts get explained in detail that you don't want to talk about. But the idea is that he has to be whole, right? And he can't marry a divorced woman, right? So that's that. And then we get this interesting statement that all offerings from the Israelites and non-Israelites are allowed in the sanctuary. Meaning that if a non-Israelite who is in the camp brings an offering, not to a different God, but to our God, the Kohen is to take that sacrifice and offer it. Except if the animal is blemished or contaminated in some way. And that holds true for the Israelites as well. Right? You can't take secondhand. You can't take well, this bull isn't worth much to me, so I'll offer it up as a sacrifice because, it's only got one eye. You couldn't take that and offer it as a sacrifice, right? So the animal has to be whole. And then we get this rather long discussion about Moadei Adonai, the seasons of God, God's seasons, right? And the Moadei Adonai are often translated as sacred times. So here in Leviticus, we get a calendar of sorts, right? It starts off with Shabbat. Shabbat is the most important holiday on our calendar, right? Forget what people might have told you. Forget what you might have read. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are secondary to Shabbat. In our tradition, the more you do something, the more important it is, right? And I'm not saying that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are not important, but they only happen once a year. Shabbat happens every week, right? So that's why Shabbat is at the top. And Pesach comes because Pesach is the first of the holidays, right? It takes place in the first month, Nisan, and on the 15th day, so it is the first one. And we're told that it starts on the eve of the 14th day of the first month, which is right before the nightfall, which leads us right into the 15th day, which is Pesach. And it's 7 days. And the first and the last are considered sacred. And in the middle, the Chol HaMoed, the intermediate days of the festival, you can do your work and everything, but the first and last day. And here it's 7 days, but we added. So, or the rabbis added to make sure that we didn't miss a day. So we have at the beginning and at the end 2 days. So we've added days. After Pesach comes Shavuot, which is said 7 weeks after Pesach, and it deals with the Omer, which is that initial grain that was the first grain planted. And so after 7 weeks, it comes up. And this deals with grain offerings, the offering of that grain at the temple. And in the middle of those two, right after those, so we have Pesach and Shavuot, and then we get a reminder, because we're talking about grain, that we're to leave the corners of the field and the gleanings, the stuff that fell down while we were harvesting it, they're called gleanings, leave them for the poor and the stranger. So you can't clear cut the entire field. Right? You have to leave something for the poor and the stranger. And then we get the first day of the 7th month. Zichron Truah, to remember the sound. Right? And that ultimately becomes Rosh Hashanah. But it's not known as Rosh Hashanah in the Torah. It's Yom Truah or Zicharon Truah. It has to deal with the shofar. And in the Torah it says you'll hear the shofar blasts and you won't do any work. The 10th day of the month is Yom Kippur, where you'll practice self-denial and fasting. Right? So this is a nice little calendar right in the book of Leviticus. On the 15th of that 7th month, which is Tishrei, we have Sukkot. And again, that lasts for 7 days. We dwell in the sukkah, we take the lulav and the etrog, and they say on the 1st and 8th days that will be festival days. So this 8th day, it just said 7 days. But in Sukkot, we have an extra day added, not by the rabbis. Well, they do that, but we have an 8th day added in the Torah called Shmini Atzeret, the extra 8th day, right? And then we are reminded that we are to have oil for the lamps, that we're to provide oil for the lamps so that the lamps remain burning. And then we get some comments about justice, which is really interesting, right? So if you profane God's name, if you use God's name in a particularly heinous way, you get the death penalty. If you murder someone, you get the death penalty. If you physically harm another person, according to the Torah, the same should be done to you. And this is the famous eye for an eye passage. It comes in Leviticus this week. If you kill someone's animal, you have to make restitution. And then at the very end, there's this moment of, every time I read it, I want to cry. Because at the very, very end, when they're talking about not profaning God's name and not murdering or killing an animal or physically harming someone, the Torah says that the same standard of justice that you use for the Israelite, you use for the non-Israelite as well. There's no double standard. The Israelite doesn't get a break, and the non-Israelite doesn't have to be punished more for the same crime. And this is tremendously revolutionary. This is saying that, yes, Israelites are special. We are God's chosen people. We have a special relationship with God. But when we are in control and there are non-Israelites living among us, we can't treat them less than. And this blows my mind every time I read it, for a document that's so old, and we see so many things that we find fault with, so many archaic ways of looking at the world. And then there's this one, the same standard of justice for everybody, that even in 21st century America, we still can't get that right. And here it is in the Torah. And that, friends, is the Torah in a nutshell, right? Okay, I realized that I didn't do an Ask the Rabbi earlier this month. Probably had to do with Pesach. And so now that Passover is over, I like saying that, Passover is over, Pesach is over, and we're heading to Shavuot. One of the questions that I always get, or a comment that I always hear, is that, gee, the holidays are late this year, or gee, the holidays are early this year. And of course, we're talking about the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The holidays are always on time. They are never early. They are never late. Rosh Hashanah is always, you can take this to the bank, always on the 1st of Tishrei. Always. Never the 30th of Elul, never the 2nd of Tishrei. It starts on the 1st of Tishrei. Where that is in relation to whatever secular calendar we're using, immaterial. The holidays are always on time. That's it. No, that's not just it, right? Because you're going to say, but Rabbi, the high holidays come in early September this year, and then next year they come in late September, and then maybe even October. So they're never on time. They're either early or late. No, they're always on time, right? The calendar is an interesting thing for us because we are used to the solar calendar, 365 and a quarter days, one day added every leap year, and everybody's happy. Well, that's a nice way of keeping track. Unfortunately for us, we don't keep track that way, or only that way, right? In the days before we understood all the science and everything, we needed observable phenomena for our calendar. Now, you could look at the sun, but that's not going to tell you much, right? The seasons change because of our relative position to the sun, or the sun's relative position to us, however you want it. But okay, so if you're only interested in, maybe 4 days a year, you could watch the sun. But they didn't have sunglasses, right? They needed something that was observable. So the ancients looked at the moon, which has distinct phases. It goes from being almost invisible at the new moon to a crescent, to a half or a quarter, or to a half, to a full moon, which is the middle of a lunar month, back to a crescent, and then it's gone again. So they could watch that and they could mark time that way. So that's how we got the lunar calendar. Right? That's how we got our calendar. But the Jewish calendar, what we call the Jewish calendar, is actually a mix between the solar and the lunar. Because we need the solar calendar to let us know when the day starts, which is evening, when the sun sets. And we need the lunar calendar to keep track of the months and the festivals. So there is a technical term for this, the lunisolar calendar. Luni for moon, SOLR for sun, right? The moon-sun calendar. And what happens is, if you go by that calendar, you wind up having a problem if you don't think about it. The lunar month is shorter than the solar month. And the lunar year is considerably shorter than the solar year. Right? So we have to find a way to align the two ways of looking at the two calendars, the solar and the lunar. And we do that by what's called intercalation, which means simply to add a month. Right? So we know that we add a month. The lunar month has 29 or 30 days. Now, I know, and my brother needs to forgive me because he says, no, it's 29 days, so many hours, so many minutes, so many seconds. 29 or 30. I'm not a scientist. The lunar year has approximately 354 days. So every solar year, the lunar calendar falls behind by 11 or 12 days. Right? So there are fewer days. And so they start to add up. And things happen if you don't make a way to get those days back in a way. Right? The problem for us as Jews is that Pesach and Sukkot have to fall in the spring and autumn, respectively. And if you don't take into account those loss of days, Pesach will wind up in December. Sukkot will wind up in April. Right? And to see this, you look at the Muslims have a strict lunar calendar and base their calendar solely on the lunar cycles. And so the month of Ramadan floats. The month of Ramadan is right now for the Muslims. Next year, it's going to be in a totally different place. And so we can't have that. So what the rabbis figured out is that there's a 19-year cycle, and 7 times in that 19 years, you add a month. And we add an extra month of Adar. Actually, it's the first month of Adar that we add. And it's 7 times in a 19-year cycle, right? And we know the years. The 3rd, the 6th, the 8th, the 11th, the 14th, the 17th, and the 19th year are all leap years where we add the extra month. So now you're saying, Rabbi, how do we know where we are in the cycle? I'm glad you asked. Because it's very easy. But I'm not so sure anyone born after the year 2000 will be able to figure it out. And the reason I say that is that you have to do division. And you can't do the division on a calculator. You take the year that we're in. Right now, it's 5781. And you divide that year by 19. And the remainder tells you what year you're in. So I did the math for you this week. The year 5781 puts us in the 5th year of the cycle. The remainder was 5. If you do one on a calculator, you get some point something that just does not help, right? And so we are in the 5th year, which means it's not a leap year. However, 5782, when you divide it by 19, tells you that you're in the 6th year. And the 6th year, you add the extra month. So next year, we'll have an extra month of Adar, and that will push the holidays seemingly later on the Gregorian calendar, but it's just catching them up with the lunar calendar so that we keep the holidays where they need to be. That's it. The math involved in all of this is more complex than I can even begin to imagine. Doctoral dissertations have been written on how the rabbis were able to figure this out. Now, they had help, right? I mean, the rabbis weren't the ones who discovered the lunar calendar. The Babylonians were the ones who were the first stargazers. And so they had laid the groundwork for the lunar calendar, but we took it and we made it into ours, and we figured out a way to keep everything kosher, as it were, with the lunar calendar through math and just watching the sky, so that our holidays, the ones that need to fall in a certain period, which are the three pilgrimage festivals, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, but Shavuot falls in between Pesach and Sukkot, so that's not an issue. But we need to make Pesach in the spring and Sukkot in the autumn, and we do that by intercalating the years. And so, again, if somebody says to you, wow, the holidays are awfully early this year, you can look at them and say, no, they're right on time. The 1st of Tishrei, always and forever, Rosh Hashanah. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
All right, Kiddush. Kiddush and then the Omer. Not the Homer, but the Omer. But there is a very fun app on the iPhone App Store where Homer Simpson will help you keep track of the Omer by keeping track of the Homer. Yeah, I am a nerd. Gotta find my Kiddush. Here we are. Vayihir vayivoker Yom HaShishi. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam. Vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa. Vayishbot biyom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. Vayavarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i. Vayikadesh oto kivo shavat mikol malachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. Savri Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lamikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. All right, we are going to count the Omer. Yesterday was the 33rd day, also known as Lag BaOmer, because it's Lamed Gimel for 33, and that's how you know it's the 33rd day, Lag BaOmer. Hineni mukhan u'mizuman l'kayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat ha'omer, kamo shekatuv b'torah, u'sfartem lachem mimocharat ha'shabbat miyom havichem et omer ha'tenufa sheva shabbatot t'mimot tihiyena, ad mimocharat ha'shabbat hashvi'i tispohu chamishim yom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom arba'a u'shloshim yom shehem arba'a shavuot v'shisha yamim la'omer. Today is the 34th day of the counting of the Omer, making 4 weeks and 6 days of the counting of the Omer. Getting close to Shavuot. One of my favorite holidays. although I like them all.
Studying in cheesecake.
Studying in cheesecake. What more could you want? Seriously. Telling you.
Yes.
And it's just dairy. Seriously, just dairy, right? Ice cream. You could have ice cream sundaes. You could have milkshakes. You could have cheesecake, blintzes, anything that you want. It comes out of your ears because you're going to be up studying all night. Shavuot. In a little over 2 weeks. Stay tuned because we're going to have a program. Page 282, we'll close out with Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo hosamanu k'mishpachot hadama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech mochei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shehu noteh shamayim ve'yoser haaretz u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mimahal u'shchinatu zo begavhei meromim Hu Eloheinu einod Emet malkeinu efesulato, kakahatu v'torato, v'yadata hayom v'hashevota, elevavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim mimal, v'al haaretz, Mitachat eino. Kakatu b'toratecha, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, lamelech al kol ha'aretz, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad. This week we observed the following yahrzeits: Nathan Robert Baker, husband of Edna, father of David; Leah Mendel, wife of Max, mother of Ruth; Andrew van der Laske, Alan Siegel's nephew; Rhonda van der Laske, Andrew's wife; Beatrice Geringer, Jacob Schradsky, Harold's father; Herman Zilberstein, Jack Hyman's uncle; David Baker, son of Edna and Nathan, husband of Janet; Irene Island, relative of Ed; Lena Friedman, Pauline's cousin; Israel Greenstein, Irving's grandfather, Harry's father; Hannah Miller, B. Geringer's mother; Otto Aller, husband of Anita Herbert; David Cohen, relative of Eve Feinberg; Isidore Cohen, David and Billy Glick's uncle; Nancy Cohen Tarbus's father; Lillian E. Finn, related to Mina Poland; Julius Friedman, Pauline's cousin, husband to Lena; Leo Schradsky, Harold's relative; Isidore Schradsky, Harold's brother; Saul Cohen, David Cohen's brother; Carlos Sweeney, Scott Murphy's grandfather; Mildred Wormser, Victor's wife, mother of Sam and Ron; Dr. Mayer S. Galpin, Betty Kolker's father; Nathan Malmut, Esther Necken's father. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us all, and may they all rest in peace. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, b'alma divrach hirute v'yamlik malchute, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam l'omea maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlamha rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. All right, friends, we are almost done with Friday night services. We've almost finished Shabbat evening services. A couple of quick announcements. The last time for this month, as April is over, it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And if you know anyone who has been assaulted, you can have them reach out to the Contact Rape Crisis Center, which is available 24 hours a day to provide support. And you can reach them at 304-399-1111 or on the web, www.contacthuntingtononeword.com. All right, bunch of things happening this week. I love it. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., services. Scott and Tam will be here, God willing. I want to thank Scott for being my tech guru and my macadamia. So that's tomorrow at 10. Sunday morning at 9, another service. Then Sunday afternoon at 3, we have a special Let My People Know session with Jesse Davidson, who is a student and a friend of mine from Tampa, who after he graduated college made Aliyah to Israel, enlisted in the IDF, and became a sniper, and saw what it's like to be a soldier in Israel. And he's going to talk to us. He's going to tell us about his life, what it was like, growing up in Tampa, and then why he decided to make Aliyah, why he entered we know why he entered the military, because you have to if you're between a certain age. But the interesting thing is why he wanted to serve in the elite forces, right, of the IDF. And so that's going to be Sunday afternoon at 3 on Zoom. And so we'll look forward to seeing you then. Wednesday night, yes. Wednesday, the best little Yiddish choir anywhere. Still working on Kazakhstan.
We are.
Did I get the right Stan? Okay. Still working on Kazakhstan. It's a great way to spend your Wednesday evening. And then
in the song, we do mention Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. They all come up.
All the stands come up. You can't miss it. You can't miss them. And then next week, Friday night, Saturday, and then Sunday. But and then next Sunday, the 9th is the congregational annual, the twice annual congregational meeting. And then that Monday, you'll be getting an email about this. The synagogue is starting a weekly Bible study. And it's an interesting way that we're going to do it. We're going to take the book of Genesis, the very first book of the Torah, and we are going to go through it verse by verse, right? We're not going to be in a rush. If we get through one verse a week, we get through it, because we're going to be reading it with some classic commentary. And so you're going to get the email on Monday, and then just let us know if you're interested. It's going to be Monday evenings. I think I picked 6:30 for the time. And let us know if you're interested. You don't need to know Hebrew. All the sources are going to be in English. And if I bring a source that's not in English, I will provide the translation, right? So everything's going to be in English. We're going to, of course, see the verse in Hebrew and look at it because that's what a lot of the commentators are going to be talking about, the verse in Hebrew and the Hebrew words. So we'll have that, but everything else is going to be in English, and we're just going to take our time. I'm calling it a deep dive into the book of Genesis because, I've always wanted to do something like this, and so we're going to do the book of Genesis. So look for your email for all the other information about it. I think that's it. Yes.
One more. May 9th is also Mother's Day.
And May 9th is also Mother's Day. But I'll remind everybody of that next week. All right? Because everybody needs to be thankful for their mother. And I'm blessed to have my mom still around. And so very glad, very glad. And she'll actually be visiting for Mother's Day. So first time in a long time. Okay. I wanted to do Yigdol. But, huh? We can do Yigdol. Yeah, but I have to have the one with the right verse. Mm-hmm. We're going to do Yigdol tonight. I'm in my Maimonidean mode. I've been thinking about Maimonides. So we're going to do Yigdol. And I have an extra verse at the end that we'll be singing. But Yigdol, top of page 324. Yigdol Elohim Chai v'yishtahabach nimsa v'yehein ehet me'el metziuto echad v'yein yachid keyichudo ne'lam v'gam ein sof liachduto ein lo demut haguf v'yehein no guf lo na'aroch elav kedushato kadmon l'chol davar asher nivra Rishon v'yein reshit l'reshito Chino adon olam lechol notzar Yoreh gedulato u'malchuto Shefan nevuato netano El anshe segulato v'tifarto Lo kam b'Yisrael kimo she'od Navi u'mahabit et emunato Artemet Natan Leah Moel Al Yad Navi. Oops. I lost my voice. Yeah. Al Yad Navi O Neman Beito Yo Lo Yachalif Ha'el V'lo Yamir Dato Leo Lahamim Lezulato Tzofev Yodea Sitarenu Mabit l'sof davar bekadmato Gomel ish chesed k'mihi falo Notein l'rasha ra kirishato Yishlak yeketz yamin meshichenu Lifdot mechake ketz yeshuato Meitim yichayel berov chasto Baruch adehe ad shem tehilato Meitim Yechayel berov chasto Baruch adehe ad shem tehilato. All right, Jenny Bro, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Another beautiful week. Yes, let's have another one. ML Glazer and Herman Glazer, how are you? And they wish us all a good and restful Shabbat. Right back at the Glazers. Cliff Wanamaker, Shabbat Shalom from Rabbi's mom. And Cliff, well, there you go. Rabbi's mom. Suzanne Hartz, good Shabbos to all from Maury and Suzanne. Well, and a special shout out to the Brooklynites, to Patty Ann and Aaron, and to Melanie in the holy city of Brooklyn. Hope all is well. Everybody have a great Shabbat. Enjoy the evening. Enjoy Shabbat. Be careful out there, and we'll see you soon.